For the lesson today, we'll be using the following keys on the remote: the red thumb wheel, clockwise and counterclockwise, the info button in the upper right hand corner of the remote, the scroll button in the upper left hand corner of the remote, the 5 function keys just below the display screen, and the touchpad. It's very important, as we mentioned earlier, that you tell your legacy remote what the features are of each locomotive you have on your railroad. Today we're going to go ahead and demonstrate how to set the control type, the type of locomotive, the sounds, and name and number a locomotive in your remote. To begin, we simply select the engine number. All of the locomotives from Lionel from the factory are programmed as engine 1. As we have explained in previous videos on how to program an ID number, we suggest that you use either the first 2 or the last 2 digits of the cab number on the locomotive. Assuming that you've done that, we need to tell the remote exactly what locomotive we want to set up. So we're going to begin with engine 10. To do this, we simply press engine 1, 0. In the lower right hand corner of our remote, we can see that it now says engine 10. It also tells us that we're in cab 1 mode and that engine 10 is a cache. We need to delete this information so that we can add the information about our specific locomotive. To do this, you begin by pressing the info button in the upper right hand corner. Once you do this, it brings up a menu on the top with 4 tabs. At this point, we don't care what that says because we want to clear it. To clear it, you simply press the key underneath CLR. You press it once, and it asks you if you want to clear engine 10 from the settings. We do, so we press the button for yes. Engine is cleared. Now we press info to get back to engine 10. We can see there's no display name at all. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and program or tell our remote what engine 10 is specifically. To do this, we press the info key. We need to assign the name. To assign the name to this locomotive, assuming it is a cab 1 TMCC.1 equipped locomotive, and we'll say that it is a Union Pacific RS11, and we'll make up a cab number, assuming it ends in 10. So we press the key underneath name, and we're presented with an alphabet. To scroll through our alphabet, we simply use the red thumb wheel at the bottom of the remote. Turning it clockwise, you can see where we move through the alphabet, and counterclockwise moves the opposite direction. So what we need to do is name UPRS11. So we scroll over to U, and we press the add key. Scroll back to P. Now we need a space. We scroll all the way past Z to the open area. We press add. Back to R. S. Now we need 2 digits, 11. So we simply use the touchpad on the remote 1, 1 to select 11. At this point, the naming configuration is complete. So we press the key under next. Now we need to assign a road name. As I mentioned earlier, we're assuming that the number ends in 10. Using the numeric display touchpad on the remote, we need to select a number. So we'll pretend it's 8810. If you mess up, you can simply press all zeros to clear it. Go back and press it again. Once you're satisfied with the cab number of the locomotive entered into the remote, you can press the set key. At this point, we need to finish configuring our diesel or our locomotive. We know it's a diesel, so what we want to do is we want to make sure that the tabs at the top of our remote tell the remote everything it needs to know about this specific locomotive. To get to the next tab, we'll press the scroll button 1 time. It moves us to the type. Yes, it is a diesel. We select diesel. The importance of selecting the type of locomotive you're entering is so that the touchpad displays the correct icons when you enter into the auxiliary sound activation modes. So we've got diesel selected. We need to tell our remote the control type. It's a TMCC1 locomotive. Therefore, it requires an 8-bit digital signal on the track. So by pressing the scroll key again, we move to the next tab. Underneath cab 1, we want to press this key so that cab 1 mode displays on our touchpad or on our display screen. We want to press scroll one more time to get to sound. Right now the remote thinks the engine has no sounds. We need to tell it that it is equipped with Rail Sounds or Rail Sounds 5. So simply press the key underneath each abbreviation and it will clearly display on the display screen what mode you're selecting. It is not possible to give a cab 1 control legacy rail sounds. Legacy rail sound requires 9-bit digital signal, and TMCC1 locomotives require an 8-bit digital signal. So because we have selected our control type as cab 1, we need to select our sound as either Rail Sounds 5, or no sounds. Because it's a cab 1 or TMCC1 locomotive, we're going to choose Rail Sounds. At this point, the configuration of the locomotive is complete. To exit this screen, simply press the info button in the upper right-hand corner. The remote now displays engine 10 is Union Pacific RS11, and the cab number popped up on there briefly, and it will again when we address it. Engine 10 UP RS11 8810. Earlier in this presentation, we mentioned why it was important to select the type of locomotive you're using. Because Union Pacific RS11 number 8810 is a diesel, we want the proper icons to display on the touchpad when we access the auxiliary features. To access the auxiliary features, you simply press the AUX1 key, or as we refer to it in service, the AUX1 key. The AUX1 key on your remote is conveniently located right below the touchpad, and it is appropriately labeled AUX1. Simply press AUX1 one time. You can clearly see that the icons on the touchpad directly reflect the operations for a diesel locomotive. You've got volume up, tower comm, RPMs up, RPMs down, shutdown, volume down, tower comm, minus to turn the smoke off, plus to turn the smoke on, and R for engine reset.